Okay, we're getting ready to go live on, we're getting ready in a couple of minutes. Okay, we're getting ready to go live on, in a couple of minutes. We're going to start in a couple of minutes. We're holding the fourth Mishneh. You can see it on your screen. And in Pirkei Avot, in Ethics of Our Fathers. We have another minute left. I'm not used to working with Zoom and Facebook that well, but trying our best. Getting everybody used to with this kind of a system. Okay, I hope everybody's good. Those nobody's on Zoom yet. A couple people. Now we have somebody on Facebook. Let's give it another minute. Minute is going to be 7:30, and we'll start with the chapter 1. We're holding Mishnah number 4, and we will start Pirkei Avot. Just in one more moment. Give us another moment. At Chabad we start on time. If you have any questions, if you're on Zoom, you can ask the question in your chat box. And if you're on, okay, we're getting some more people on Zoom. Slowly, we're gonna get everybody there. Let's give it one more minute, and we will start this class. I hope you can see the Mishnah on your either on Facebook or on your Zoom. Okay, we're getting ready. Are we ready to start the class? Okay, so we're holding Mishnah number 4, the fourth Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. So it's interesting if you listen to the first class. In the first 3 Mishnahs, the Mishnah now changes. In the fourth Mishnah, it changes. In the drastic changes that we went from 1 rabbi to this Mishnah, we start 2 rabbis. This Mishnah that we're going to start to learn is Yosef ben Yezer ish Tzreida. Yosef ben Yezer, the son of Tzreida, he lived around 200 years before the destruction of the second temple. So we are now holding 200 years before the destruction of the temple, and the destruction of the temple was in 70 CE. So we're holding at the end of BCE as it comes to this 70 CE. So we're holding if 70 CE was the destruction of the temple, we're holding 130 years before that, before the Common Era. It was not happy times, even though there was a second temple. It was not such happy times for the Jewish people in that period of time. And it was not only because of the Romans that were squeezing them, so to say, but it was also because of the Jewish people themselves. The Sadducees were very, very powerful in those times, and they even had a king that was a Sadducee, and King Yanai, and they were out to get the rabbis, and they killed many of them, and it was a very rough time. It was such a rough time that ultimately you see that it lost its leadership of one rabbi that was, so to say, the leader of the Jewish nation. It went from 1 rabbi to 2 rabbis, and they lived in different places, and they ran the Jewish people as best they can. There was one that was a Nasi, and one was the Avbezdin, and they struggled with the Sadducees, and it was not an easy situation. And many of them had to run away from Yerushalayim, where the court was, where Bez Nagoda was, and the Beis Hamikdash, and they had to hide, as you can read the history of the Jewish people at that time. So let's go to the Mishnah itself. Mishnah number 4. Yosi ben Yozer ish Tzreida. Yosi, the son of Yozer, the man of Tzreida, it's a city in Israel. Yosi ben Yochanan ish Yerushalayim, and Yosi ben Yochanan, the man of Yerushalayim. And they were the two leaders of the Jewish nation at that time. And they said, they received their teachings. Their teacher was the previous sage, Antigonus ish Soichai, who was in the fifth Mishnah, was mentioned as the leader himself. We now go to two leaders. And they said as follows. So Yosef ben Yosef is Tzedai, Yosef ben Yosef, the man of Tzedai, said, your house should be a hope open to sages. Your home should be a place of gathering. Truth is that there are those who say that why did Yosef ben Yosef say that? Because since there were a lot of differences in the Jewish people at that time, there were many differences and many machlokes and many arguments, if you can imagine. The Jewish people were arguing with each other. But it was extremely powerful, those, because the Prushim and the Stukim between the rabbis and the Sadducees. It was extremely a tough time for the Jewish people. As it's recorded in the Talmud itself, the continuous arguments between the Chachamim and the movement of powers between the two entities was extremely a problematic situation. So Yosef ben Yosef said the best way to bring about unity between dissent ideas is to come and sit and learn together, to be a place of knowledge. If you come together and we will open the door and everybody's welcome into the house and we can all study, we will be able to have an influence on each other and we'll be able to change the tide of time. So that was his advice. You know, the truth is that these three rabbis, Antigonus and Yosef ben Yosef and Yosef ben Yosef, Yisrael and Yechanan ish Yerushalayim, Yosef ish Yerushalayim, Ben Yechanan ish Yerushalayim, really go on Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon said that there are three pillars the world stands on: of Torah, on the learning of Torah, of Avodah, on the service, of Gemilas Chasadim, and the acts of kindness. So here, there's three sages go and explain how to accomplish those three pillars, each one individually. So Antigonus said the way to accomplish that, how to do service, is when you are completely given over. You are given over totally, not because of what you're going to get, not because of what you're going to acquire, but you're given over to the service. That's the concept of Avodah. Comes now the second sage and says, how do you learn Torah? How does one learn Torah? How do we figure out to be able to strengthen the pillar of Torah? So he says, number one, the base place is that you have a place of learning. You have, if your home is a place of learning. There's classes. It's a place of studying. It's a place of discussion. And the more you can discuss, not with yourself, but with others, the more you can have a conversation in knowledge, the more Torah is going to grow. If you're going to close yourself up and you're not going to open up your doors, or you're not going to give the capability for others to learn, you're going to have a problem with the concept of Torah. And he says that in which way you should learn Torah. You should dust yourself in the soil of their feet. You should be in the dust of the soil of their feet. It says the soil of their feet. Usually it would say the dust of their feet, but it doesn't say that. It says ba'afar, in the dirt of their feet. Because the earth of the feet has a place of growth. We don't want to look at the dust of the sage's feet. We're looking for the earth, that in a place where something can grow. So he says you should bask in the dirt of their feet. That means you shouldn't be worried. It's actually brought down. Gadol shimusha yosim elimudei. Servicing a sage. That means that you're in the concept. You're bask in the dirt of their feet. You help them. Be their uplifting of their feet. It's not enough that you learn Torah. You need to make sure to protect the Talmidei Chachamim. And there was a big problem in those days to make sure the Talmidei Chachamim were safe in a very practical way, because the Talmidei Chachamim in those days were sought out people by Jews themselves. The Sadducees, they sought these people out and they killed the sages. Because they knew that if they get rid of the sages, they would be able to eradicate Torah from the world. Therefore, it's important to protect the sages. Watch the sages. Make sure to honor the sages. And you should bask in the dirt of their feet and drink their words with thirst. Self-understood, the words of the sages were not their own words. It was the words of Torah. That means a person should be thirsty for the learning of Torah. Don't just learn Torah because you have time. Don't learn Torah because it's a nice subject, it's a nice concept. No, it's like you're thirsty for water. You don't drink water because it's something nice to drink. No, because you need water. We need water. That's the famous story of Rabbi Akiva. Where Rabbi Akiva, when he was teaching Torah, and the Romans then were out to get him, and they ultimately got him and killed him. So one of his close friends said, "How are you putting yourself in danger under the Roman rule?" And he answered with the famous analogy of the fox that goes to the end of the water, and he sees the fish that are running around. They're all nervous, and they're running around, and he talks. He tells the fox asks the fish, "Why are you so nervous?" And the fish say, "We are nervous because of the guy's gonna come and catch us with his net." So the fox says, "The fish, come out of the water, and I'll protect you." So the fish said, "You might be a very smart animal, but we cannot live out of the water. So if you take us out of the water, we will surely die. If we are in the water, we might be caught and we might not be caught." So he said, I'm like a fish in water. Siddur says, even furthermore, the fish are part of the water. They live in water. You cannot separate water from them. You separate water from them, they cannot survive. So they are part of the water. They feel their existence in water. That's one of the differences between animals of the earth and animals of the water. Animals of the earth, even though they come from earth, because we all come from earth, we feel separate from the earth. A fish feels like he's part of the water, because if you separate him from the water, he dies. So a fish understands and comprehends he needs to be part of water. He needs to be part of this water. A person should have thirst for Torah like he needs it. If you want to acquire the concept of Torah, you need to have a thirst for the Torah. David HaMelech says in Psalms, my soul is in thirst for you. So we have to have a thirst for Torah. Okay. Comes the next stage and says, Yosef ben Yechonah, we're holding number 5. Yosef ben Yechonah ish Yishalayim. Yosef ben Yechonah, a man of Jerusalem, said, Yehia beischa pasuach l'revachos. He comes to the third pillar, the pillar of kindness. And he teaches us what Shimon HaTzadik said, that a person needs to have the pillar of kindness. What is kindness? Not that I go out and give kindness to others. I bring others to me. I bring the others. There's no such thing as others. I can have kindness where I go to others. But myself, I closed myself in my house. To say this story, I think of the Chavetz Chaim. Don't hold me to it, exactly the stories with him. But he once came to a Jew to collect money, and it was a late winter night. It was freezing. And he knocked on the door, and the Jew came to the door, and he saw the Chavetz Chaim. He said, "Come into the house." So the Chavetz Chaim said, "No, I want to talk to you outside." He said, "It's freezing outside." The Chavetz Chaim said, "No, I want to talk to you outside." And the Jew went outside, and it was freezing. He said, "Rebbe, why are we standing outside?" He said, "Because I want you to feel the pain of the Jew that's outside, that doesn't have the warmth of the house. And he's standing outside. He doesn't have heat in his house. How are you going to be able to feel the pain in your house? If the person without heat is in a house without heat, it's freezing, and you're sitting in a warm house. Come outside, feel what it means to be in the cold, and now you understand the person that's cold." Here the Tana says it a little bit different, and he says you want to feel the pain of somebody that is poorer than you, somebody that is weaker than you. Open your doors. Your home is not a museum. Your home needs to be open. Let people come into the house. Essentially, today with a lot of people but we're hopefully going to come to a conclusion to that situation. So soon we'll open our doors, but our doors should be open. We should have achnasas orchim. We should invite guests into the house. We should have not only guests, as this Mishneh says, poor people should be your members of your house. It's interesting. He says, even if you bring poor people in your house, don't make them feel as poor people. Oh, I'm helping out the poor. Come and I'll give you a separate table. I'll put you in a separate room. No. He says real gemilas chasadim, real act of kindness is when I open my doors to a poor man and I bring him into the house and I make him feel like he's part of my family. If I can do that, I've established a pillar of chesed, true concept of kindness, because they are part of my house. And then he says another whole concept in the aspect of chesed, which comes to teach us. It's a little interesting the way he says it. This is a controversial Mishneh. I always try to do this Mishneh quickly because it's a controversial how you learn this Mishneh. And you'll see the wording in the Mishneh. I'm not going to skip it, but we will say the Mishneh as it says. So he says, be careful. Be careful the way you engage in excessive conversation with a woman. So a person might think, "Oh, I'm a lovable guy. I'm a good person. I'm comfortable with everybody," and that is dangerous. He says. So even though he says, "I'm telling you to be an open guy, be an open person, have a relationship with everybody, make everybody feel like you're at home, but be careful. Be careful, because the Eibishter gave one of the things in life, a taiva v'akavod. One of the things one of the struggles that we have in life is human sexuality and immorality, and it's a big problem. We shouldn't just think that this is a problem that happens in our generation. This is a problem that's part of history, because it's part of the DNA of man and woman, that this struggle of the relationship. And we think that that the way sometimes a person thinks he makes a relationship is through the concept of vulgar kind of concept, an immoral kind of concept. The Eibishter wanted that there should be a relationship between men and women. That's what he said. You have to come together and create this relationship. But God understood that this can come out into a negative way, because humans will become sometimes immoral. They will do it in an immoral way, and they'll create an immoral relationship. And that will be a negative thing. It's surely not good that man and woman should be alone. We need relationships, but we need real relationships. Not relationships that's like in the movies, or all these kind of shows, which is pashut not true, which is a fake relationship, and therefore there's a lot of hurt and there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of suffering. We need to have relationships that are based on true concepts, where a man respects a woman and a woman respects a man. One of the most important things any psychiatrist will tell you is that in a relationship, a woman should always needs the respect between each other. When we start talking vulgar to each other, we lose respect between one another. We lose respect, and when we lose respect between one another, we struggle in relationships. One of the most important things in relationship is respect. And therefore, it's, not everything should be told in a relationship. Not everything should be told. Because when you tell somebody a sin, I'm not talking about the sin that happened now, but the sin in the past. Not everything that should be told of the sins of the past when you come into a relationship. Because what happens? The other person might lose respect. And it's very hard to acquire respect again. So therefore, the Mishneh says that this sage is giving you a practical advice. See, the Torah prohibits yichud, meaning that a man and woman are not allowed to be alone if they're not married. That sounds crazy today in the world. Right? That sounds crazy, but it's not. The Torah knew, God wrote the Torah. God knew the makeup of men and women. God knew their struggles and the struggles that they would have in their moralities, in the way if there would be moral or not. And therefore God asked that there shouldn't be yichud, there shouldn't be a concept of a man and woman out of marriage coming together in a closed, secluded situation, because you're putting yourself into danger. We say it every day in the davening. Please, God, don't give me a challenge. It's not a chokhmah to take a challenge. David HaMelech himself fell through in this challenge. David HaMelech, King David, was a righteous man. God asked God for a challenge. And what was the challenge that God gave him? A little thing split, the Gemara says, the Talmud says, the little twig split, and he saw this woman. And automatically created within him a desire. And through that came about an immoral act, a sin that happened. And there's a whole argument. I'm not going to go into that kind of. But we all, if David HaMelech could have fallen through this aspect, we are all capable of doing this. And we all need to be careful the way we have this relationship. So Rabbi Yosef says, even though I'm telling you to have an open house and everybody needs to be as friends and everybody needs to be one, be careful. Make sure you don't become vulgar. Make sure you keep your morality, you keep your ethics straight and focused. And therefore, he says, let's just read what he says. He said, even by your wife, you shouldn't talk sicha, vulgar. If you shouldn't talk vulgar with your wife, you shouldn't talk vulgar with somebody else. You should be very classy. You should be classy with your wife. You should talk to your wife in a respectful way. Not in a crass kind of a way. Not in a vulgar way. Because it shows that you have a vulgar relationship. And a crass relationship. Hence the sages says, one who excessively converses with a woman causes evil to himself, neglects the study of Torah, and ends inherits purgatory. Ultimately, God forbid, brings about a person immoral acts and creates terrible things for his soul. My friends, take the Mishneh any way you want to take it, but this was the statement of sages. I, for example, go through every day the challenge. When a woman reaches out her hand to shake my hand, I say, I don't shake another woman's hand. Some women like it. Some women are offended. And as more as I can explain to them that I'm not doing it out of disrespect for them. I'm actually doing it out of respect for them. I tell them I keep my touch to my wife and not to another woman. But the truth is, a woman once told me, I wish my husband did that. I wish my husband kept his touch only to me and not to another woman. That would be a wonderful thing. My friends, we have today more divorce in life. More people are having affairs. Maybe not today because they're quarantined. But in the world that we live in today, we have affairs and we have divorces because of the struggle in this relationship. Because there's a problem in the connection between a man and a woman. So even though we're all part of, we should have our own homes open, and everybody should be welcome into the house, but we have to be careful. That's the Mishneh says. I know it's controversial, but we'll go on. We can always come back to this Mishneh. So now the Mishneh continues. Yeshua ben Pracha Tanya Rabbi Kibla Mehem. Yeshua ben Pracha, Mishnah number 6. Yeshua ben Pracha and Tanya Rabbi received their learning from these previous stages. Yeshua ben Pracha Yoima. Yeshua ben Pracha said, Asay lecha Rav. Make yourself a rabbi. There has to be some. A Rav does not mean a rabbi. A Rav means somebody who you can learn from. You need in life. You're going to see how this mission is divided into 3 levels. In life, there are people that are higher, are more learned than you. There are people that are on your level, and there are people that can learn from you. And you need to have all these entities in life. If you want to have these 3 pillars, so to say, you need to have these 3 entities in your life. Asay lecha Rav. Have a Rav, person that you can look up to. Your parent can be your Rav. Somebody, or the Rav, or pick a rabbi. Choose a rabbi. Who's going to be your Rav? Who's going to be the person you're going to look up to? And ask that difficult question and come to some kind of, that you hopefully come to some kind of conclusion from this rabbi. Knei lecha chaver. And acquire a friend. You need to have a friend in life. It's interesting the way he expresses over here. Knei lecha chaver. You should acquire a friend. So important is a friend. It might be even more important than Rav. A Rav needs to acquire. I mean, to make upon yourself. But a friend is worth money. King Solomon said, it's better a good friend that is close than a family that's far. It's so important to have somebody who can understand you and help you. See, a Rav, sometimes you feel that that person is in distance from you. But a friend is somebody hopefully you feel comfortable with. And that friend can tell you, as a friend, if you're doing something right or you're doing something wrong. And maybe help you in the way you're going to live your life. And that's why it's so important to have a friend. The truth is, we can know that we can count on our fingers true friends that we have. We have a lot of social friends. Friends that we go to shul with, and friends that we go to the movies with, and friends that we go play golf with, and friends that we do eat dinner with, and friends that we eat lunch with, and friends we go to the vacation with. Sometimes these friends who you can always be, you'll be there always for him, and he will always be there for you. Have a good friend. They have a done is called Adam Lakavskos, and always judge somebody to the right. Always judge another person meritoriously. Don't be judgmental to people that you feel are under you. People you feel that are lower than you in knowledge and ethics and values, never judge anybody. You never know why you are on a higher level. As I always said many times, most of the times is because of what others that I've given you, that's the reason you're on a higher level. I once said this story before. You can look it up someplace on YouTube, where a guy brings together a bunch of college students and he puts them online in a field, a big field. He puts them online. He brings them together for a race, and they're going to win $500. Whoever wins the race. So a bunch of people come, a bunch of college students come, and they line up, boys and girls. And he goes to the other end of the field, and he puts another line. Then he comes in the middle of the field, and he says, I'm going to have a race. We're going to have a race. Whoever reaches the other end of the field, and he's holding the $500. Whoever reaches the other end of the field will get this $500. But before we start the race, I'm going to ask all those that have parents, father and mother, they should take one step forward. And you see a certain group come one step forward. Whoever was sent to a better college, not a community college, step a step forward, and another group steps a step forward. And then he says, whoever has all the money they need, they don't need to go to work for their money, step a step forward. And he goes through like some of these questions, and you see the difference between some same age people. See the difference between some that are in the back of the line still at the line, because they don't have all these things. And some that are really hot, 10, 15 steps forward. And he turns to everybody and says, now I'm going to have this race. But I want to tell the winners, they don't win because of them, that they are faster than the people behind them. They're winners because they were given opportunities. Others gave them opportunities that the others in the back were not given. Maybe the others in the back are faster, but they're not given those opportunities. And that's the way we need to adonos call out the kafschus. You always have to judge somebody to meritoriously. You don't know the opportunities or the lack of opportunities that other person was given. You don't know the situation he's in. You don't know the circumstances that he was brought up in. You don't know what he's going through. If you were in the same situation like him, maybe you can judge him, but he's not your chaver. Only a chaver can judge somebody else. Somebody who's like you and he knows you, and maybe he's even gone through the same things that you have gone through. We once had a soldier from the Friends of IDF came. We do it every year. We have Friends of IDF, a Friday night meal for the soldiers of Friends of IDF. Today, Yom HaZikaron, remembering the soldiers of IDF. So the soldier that came there, we didn't realize. So they send this organization, Friends of IDF, send a soldier every year. And the soldier came and is giving this lecture, and we were told that he was handicapped. But we when he came into the room and he was speaking, we didn't realize he was handicapped until he picked up his pants. And when he picked up his trousers, we saw that he was missing. Rahman San, he was missing feet, both of his feet. He was on these fake legs. And he said the following story. He said when he was in the hospital, he went into a deep depression after he lost his feet. It was some kind of bomb, and he lost his feet, and he was in a total depression. He wanted to kill himself. He didn't want to leave the hospital. And he said people came and told him, "Don't worry, don't worry." He said, "You don't know what I'm going through. How can you tell me don't worry? You're all walking, you're all healthy. How are you telling me don't worry?" And so went on. He couldn't get out of his depression until he was visited by some soldier. And he said the same thing to the soldier. "Thank you for your words of encouragement, but you have no idea what I'm going through. You have no idea the pain and suffering I'm going." And the soldier picked up his trousers and said, "I also don't have feet. I also lost my feet. I know what you're going through. I went through exactly what you're going through. He said that's what got him out of his depression. Not that other people that have no idea what I was going through were telling me and even encouraging me, it's going to be great, it's going to be great. No, nobody could affect me more than the person that has gone through the same thing that I've gone through. And that's what changed my whole attitude. And the truth is, that's what the Mishneh says. And nobody should want somebody else's tzaras. Have it done as called Adam lekavschus. You should always judge everybody to the right. In general, we shouldn't be the prosecutor of God. God did not hire anybody over here as prosecutors. He has surely hired each and every one of us as defense lawyers. When we see something in another person, we should always judge him to the right. We should always say, oh, he's going through a hard time. Or maybe he's unhappy. Oh, he has no money. Oh, he has no happiness. Whatever it might be, we need to find somebody to always judge. This is such an important thing, not to judge people to the negative. It's a very powerful thing. You know, it says that one of the things that the Eibishter likes the most is when he hears Jews being mishabeach other Jews. The Eibishter likes the most. It's a statement of the Rabbi and I think it was this open statement that Marash, this was his birthday on Sunday, that God likes the most is when Jews talk good about other Jews. When Jews are done with kapschus, when you judge everybody to the positive, when you see even a negative thing happening and you see that, you judge it to the positive. You see the good within it. Baditcher, who was known as a lover of Jews, once met a Jew smoking on Shabbos. This is a famous story. And he saw him smoking on Shabbos, and he stopped the Jew. He said, Rabbi Yankel, I'm sure you don't know today is Shabbos. He says, Rebbe, I know it's Shabbos. Oh, he says, I'm sure you have a sickness, and the doctor told you you need to smoke on Shabbos. And he says, Rebbe, I'm healthy like an ox. I'm healthy, I know it's Shabbos, and I'm smoking. He picked up his eyes to the heaven, and he says, look at the Bein Shalom. It's Shabbos, and a Jew doesn't want to lie on Shabbos. A Jew doesn't want to lie on Shabbos. The Gemara actually says that an Amoritz cannot lie on Shabbos. It's a statement at the top. So a Jew doesn't want to lie. You see, that's the way you need to be. That's the way we need to be. We need to be people that always judge everybody to the positive. Never, don't try to find the negative. It's easy to find it. Okay, we all know this. Let's go right. Let's go further. Okay, number 7. We're holding mission number 7. Netanya Harabeli said, see, actually, these two rabbis, you can see how they argue sometimes with one another. And they, that's why you see that these two rabbis are arguing right now, a little bit, seemingly, because he says seemingly the opposite. He says, distance yourself from a bad neighbor. Do not attach yourself with a wicked person. And you would sound like that, in essence, he's against wicked people. And he's the opposite of judging everybody to the positive. And that's not true. He doesn't say judge them to you. He does says be careful not to fraternize with a wicked person. Because most of us think that we can change everybody. And we can influence everybody. And that's not true. We have to be careful that if there's a wicked person, we need to pray for him. We need to be careful not to, I'm not judging him. I don't want to judge the person, but I don't want to, chas v'shalom, be influenced by the person that I might become befriended with. And ba'al tisyayish min hapedonis, and don't be despair in the face of consequences. Now, this is an interesting statement of this Mishnah. And what's the meaning of this Mishnah? Many learn this Mishnah that you know what, every person has his day. So therefore, don't be jealous of a wicked person. He has his day too. That's one way of learning the Mishnah. But that's a negative way, because in essence you're going to be happy. Oh, I'm righteous. I have to do all the things correctly, and this guy is allowed to sin. This guy's allowed to do whatever he wants, but he's going to get punished. Why? Nobody should be punished. He should do tshuva. I should want everybody to do tshuva. Nobody should be punished. Everybody should forgive everybody, even if he doesn't do tshuva. God should forgive everybody. But there's a much deeper meaning some hold in the Mishnah. It's not talking about somebody else, it's talking about yourself. We have a guilt problem. We have a problem. What holds us back a lot from doing what is right? Because we have our own guilt. We say, oh, we're bad people. We're not good people. We're bad people. Oh, I'm not righteous. How many Jews have I met said, oh, that's not right. I'm not religious. I'm not righteous. I'm not a righteous Jew. It's like a wall they put up. I'm not a righteous Jew. Comes the Mishnah and says, don't say that. Do not say that. Don't say that. Don't worry about it. Don't use it out that you've done negative things as a wall, as not becoming better. For that reasons, I'm not going to become a better person because I have done sins in the past. No. Don't do that. Don't be afraid. Don't be despair in the face of consequence of troubles called by me, because the Eibush will forgive you. Because we'll all do tshuva and the God will forgive you. Don't use out negative, even your own negative, as an excuse not to be in a good mood, not to be in a positive situation, not to be focused. It's a very important thing, this concept. You know, the Mishnah says, and the Alter Rebbe brings it down in Tanya, the first chapter of Tanya, that a person is not, it's a halacha, a person is not allowed to make himself wicked. You're not allowed to make yourself wicked. Even in halacha, if a person comes to court, see that difference between civil court and Jewish law. In civil law, a person's own admission is the best. You get a person to admit, that's the best. You have a confession. In Jewish law, confession is not accepted. You need two witnesses. You cannot have punishment on a confession. And you know why? Because ein adam mesim atzmei rasha. A person is not allowed to make himself wicked. He's not allowed to do that. It's a terrible thing to make oneself wicked. Oh, I am wicked. Just because you're not righteous doesn't mean that you're wicked. If you learn Tanya, you'll understand this better. There's a big, vast difference between a righteous man and a wicked man. There's a hole in between. You might never be righteous, but you should never be wicked. As the Tanya teaches us, you should be a Bainani. You should be a middleman. And I tell people, what's a middleman? A middleman never does a sin. We should never do a sin. Should we have the desire to do sin? Should we have the emotion to do sin? No, but we do. We're humans. That should be our wickedness. Our wickedness should be in our emotions and our desire. But chas v'shalom, God forbid, none of us should do a sin. And if we do a sin, we should do tshuva. And if we do a sin, we shouldn't fall into the concept of wickedness. Oh, we are now wicked people. Because you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that in Torah law. And that's the meaning of the Mishnah. According to some, that's the meaning of the statement. Don't worry about it. If you're going to worry about it and it's going to stop you, so you have two aspects. If I've done something, either do tshuva or go on. Either repent or go on. For you to carry around this sin for the next 25 years, and now it's a burden to you, and it puts you down, and it destroys you, and it makes you, then what is it worth? It has no value. It's a negative value. It's not only that you did a sin, but now you have negative value. You got to either do tshuva or go on. And we'll get back to a time, as the Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya, there's time to deal with sin. There's time to deal with an Aveda. You're going to come to Yom Kippur, you'll work on your sins. You come to, you can find certain days, you're going to work on your sins. We say it every day in davening, al-chet, we bang on it for the sins. So we take a time in davening and we work on our sins. It doesn't become a burdensome concept that now we're walking around with sins, we are sinners. Terrible thing. You should never do that. It's not a good idea. Okay. Number 8. Yehuda ben Tabai v'Shim ben Shatach kibel mehem. Yehuda ben Tabai, this is the next pair. Yehuda ben Tabai and Shim ben Shatach received their ordination from them. Yehuda ben Tabai said, do not act as a lawyer when sitting as a judge. In Jewish law, there's two different things. There's a judge and there's a lawyer. They're two different jobs. Actually, a lawyer, lawyer needs to evaluate, needs to explain what he's seen. A judge is not allowed to see anything. He's not allowed to, if he saw it, he's not a judge anymore. A judge needs to listen to what the lawyers say and make an evaluation. He's totally intellectual. He cannot be emotionally involved in the story. Then he cannot be objective. The second the judge is emotionally involved, he is now subjective. In essence, this Tana might be telling you that when we judge somebody, we're mostly not objective. We're really not objective. We're all subjective. We fluctuate between the lawyer, the prosecutor, and the judge. We suddenly become both entities, and you cannot do that. Then you're not an objective judge. So if you're going to judge somebody, you need to be a true judge. You want to judge somebody? Don't become the lawyer. Don't become the prosecutor. Then you're not objective. So therefore, if you're gonna do that, you want to be a judge, then you have to be objective. And could you be objective? Could I be objective in everything that I see, or the other person I do, or am I subjective? Now they're always, and the truth is sometimes I could be objective. I'm not involved, and I can be objective in a case. But it's very difficult. It's very difficult to be objective. You know, by Moshe Rabbeinu, it says, B'nai Tzlafchot came to him, and they said, Avinu, our father, was not part of the sin of Kairach. The second they said that, in essence, they said that our father was not part of the machlekes of Kairach that was against him, against Moshe. Moshe right away took that. He couldn't be objective anymore. They gave him a compliment. They said to him that he was not part of that argument. And right away, you see the Torah says, we have to ask God. I cannot be objective. I'm now subjective in this situation. You just now thrown me a bone to tell me that your father didn't fight with me. So therefore, I should like him or something because he was not part of the group that went out against me. You automatically made me subjective. Can we truly be objective? That's the question. Can we truly be objective in any kind of situation? And if we cannot be objective, that means we cannot be, I'll put it in different words, can we be totally intellectual and not emotional? If we cannot be totally intellectual and not emotional, then we are subjective. Then we have not become, we're not a judge anymore. We become now the lawyer. And you cannot do that. It's not a good court case if the judge becomes involved in the emotions of the case. He's not a good judge, and it's not a true case. And the judge needs to recuse himself. Therefore, that's being objective. Being objective is everything. If two people are fighting, both are wrong. The second I have a feeling that one is more because I'm mostly attached to that person, or I'm mostly involved to that person, or because I like that person, or that person is my family, another person is not my family. That person was a friend of mine, another person was not a friend of mine. The Tana is giving us such beautiful examples of how to be objective and how majority of times I cannot be objective because there's some kind of a situation that has connected me to this person, why I'm supporting this person more and that person less. Why am I getting involved? But if you're a good judge and you can truly judge objectively, then you're going to make sure that they're going to both go away as they're both going to go away. They're going to leave your courthouse having accepted the judge, regard them as equally righteous because everybody's truly righteous. If I can be objective, I can bring peace between people. If I can truly be a good judge and I can be objective. But if I'm going to be subjective, then I'm going to bring more sorrows, more pain to the situation. So here, this Yehuda ben Tabai teaches us how, if we're going to judge, how we should judge. Comes the next stage, Shim ben Shatach, number 9. Shim ben Shatach, the Shim ben Shatach would say, increasingly cross-examine the witnesses. The most important thing in Jewish law, in the aspect of a court, is witnesses. And without witnesses, you have nothing in Jewish law. They are the ones who make up the law. They're the ones, no, I'm sorry, not make up the law, but they're the ones who establish what the law will be. The rabbi does there to evaluate. The bezdin, it's not a rabbi, the bezdin, the court, does there to evaluate what the testimony is going to be. I don't know what the lawyers are going to say, but what the witnesses are going to say. You need to make sure to question your witnesses. Very important to question the witnesses. Now, witnesses also can be in Jewish law, can be in a human being, in Torah as an ethical thing, as a philosophy. Witnesses are your eyes and your ears. It's what you hear and what you see. There are two eyes, there are two ears. Such two different witnesses. The witnesses of sight and the witnesses of hearing. Make sure what you see, make sure that it doesn't affect you, even though you have two witnesses. You saw it I saw it with my two eyes. Aren't they my two witnesses? You make sure to evaluate what you see. Oh, but I heard this. You are obligated, I am obligated to to make sure to interrogate these witnesses. We say it in the Shema. Be careful. Be careful to follow what you see, what you hear. You never know that what you see might be different than what you think you're seeing. You had the story of the Meraglim, right? 12 spies went up to Israel. 10 saw it one way, 2 saw it differently. Majority saw it in a negative way. 2 didn't see it in a negative way. They all saw the same thing. But they would lachker say, they made sure to what they saw. They made sure to protect what they saw. That even if they saw it in the negative, they didn't see it in the negative. So here the Mishneh is going even a case of how you should be not judgmental. Because we're judgmental in everything that we see and everything that we hear. Fake news, as they say in America today. You have to be careful what you hear and what you most people's philosophy and involvement and understanding is in what they see and what they hear. They don't go and evaluate, they don't go and search about it. No, that's what it says, that's what it is. No, evaluate it. Make sure that what you see and what you hear is clear as day. You have this law in the Torah. When somebody comes and drills into your house, he's drilling into your basement. And he comes into your basement in the middle of the night. Are you allowed to kill him? So it depends who it is. The Torah says, if it's known the guy's not going to kill you, then you're not allowed to kill him. To evaluate what you see. The guy's digging through your hole. What happens if your father had dug through the hole? Are you allowed to kill Chas Shalom, your father digging through the hole? No. Even though he's also coming through that hole. Be careful what you see. Make sure you know that what you see is what it is. Not what you think it is, but what it truly is. Oh, this is even further, much more powerful. And when today we see it, these statements are so important because it's so important. Be careful with your words. Person should be careful what he says, what he writes down. Today, for sure, it's so Shimon Shatach didn't have WhatsApp. Today, you say something, it goes throughout the entire world. You write something, it's spread through the entire world. Be so careful. Be careful. At least they learn from them how to lie. They'll learn from them. They'll learn from these words you're going to educate other people how to use words. Everything starts with words. Hatred starts with anti-Semitism starts with words. Destructions start with words. Animosity, jealousy. All fights that we have starts with words. Be careful with your words. If I have to be careful, see here the Mishneh, it says, you should put watchmen and judges at all your gates. Here is all the gates you have to watch. The gates of the eyes, the gates of the ears, and the gate of mouth. Which has the power to say sheker? The eye can see sheker. The eye can see falsity. The ear can hear. But who can say false things? Your mouth. And that's what happens when I see something and I want it to be not the way I see it, but the way I see it. Then I will lie. I will say I saw something else. Because I want it to be that way. I've decided that I want it to be in a certain fashion. That's what happened to Meraglim. They wanted to see it in a certain way. And therefore, they impressed upon themselves and they said it. They ultimately said a negative thing. So important it is. So in essence, so important is it that a person should see the thing correctly, should hear it correctly. Or what he hears, he should decipher it to make sure what he heard, that he deciphers it and he separates it and he divides it and he brings out the good in it. Then he will say it correctly. Very important and powerful Mishneh. We just learned such unbelievable Mishnahs in Pirkei Avot. It's amazing how the hour flew by that we're learning together. But there's such powerful Mishnahs. You should learn these Mishnahs over and over again, because I just gave you a little bit what the Rebbe says in the Mishnah. There are 100 commentators on each and every Mishnah, because there are such unbelievable teachings. And as the Rebbe would always say, that Pirkei Avot is Milsa de Chasidusa, is the teachings of Chassidus, is the teachings of Lefnim Mishur Sadim, is the teachings of a way a Jew needs to rectify his midas, the way a Jew needs to elevate himself to a higher level. Can you imagine if we would listen, if I would listen to myself? Can I imagine if I would listen to the wording of the sages over here, to these sages, and I would take the Mishnah and I would listen to things differently. I would see things differently. I would say things differently. We'd be different people. And that's the beauty of learning Pirkei Avos, my friends. That's the beauty of learning the ethics of our fathers. And I know the world learns it from Pesach till Shavuos, but Chabad learns it from Pesach till Rosh Hashanah. So we have a lot of weeks of learning of Pirkei Avos to internalize it, to learn it again and again and again until we can internalize it ultimately into our daily lives. I hope I've enjoyed learning with you guys, and we'll continue Mircham next week. We're holding Mishnah number 10. God bless you all. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you in Mircham. What's the next we have? We have Manis Friedman, don't forget, on Thursday night. Manis Friedman. We have a special Zoom, private Zoom of Rabbi Manis Friedman. He's going to talk to our Zoom privately, and all the questions that people asked. And if you're interested if you have a question, please tell us, and we will ask that question. And thank you. We'll see you in Jerusalem too, Mirz Hashem. God bless you all. Have a wonderful evening. Have a good night. And we should only hear good things.